The City of Soundsville is the name of this podcast, and I am your host, Shadow Streak, along with my co-host,
RJF.
Yeah, that's you. All right, so welcome back, everybody, to our City of Soundsville podcast. In the last episode, you heard one of two things. You either heard of us talk about the episode's Insect Inside and Powerpuff Bluff, or you decided, those of you that did are very, very intelligent creatures, I must say, to listen to episode 0 of our podcast, in which RJ and I actually went into all of the pilots leading up to the premiere of Powerpuff Girls. And that was my cat meowing. I apologize if you heard that in the background.
That's a plus.
Yeah, so now you have my cat immortalized on this show as well. So yeah, how are you doing, RJ?
Good.
How's it going?
I'm good. Give me 1 second. Actually, I'm so sorry to mess up. This was very good.
Oh my god, we just started and that's what it is.
That sucks.
Well, I will keep the audience entertained while RJ's gone. So I guess just a little bit about me, what I've been up to. This podcast will be out after my video on season 1 of the Powerpuff Girls is live on YouTube. But at the time of recording, this is about a week or two prior to its release, and I still don't have the avatars done, so that's fun. I won't go into the details, but long story short, I reached out to an artist over a month ago, hoping that they could create some avatars for me, and I went weeks without hearing from them, and then it turned out that they were unavailable and couldn't do it, so that was fun, and a lot of time got wasted, and admittedly, part of it's on me, because I had been planning this video for about 4 or 5 months, so I probably could have reached out sooner, but, you know, what I ended up doing... My cat is really meowing, so you know what? I'll be right back. My sincerest apologies about that. My cat was really wanting to go upstairs. So, yeah, anyway, long story short, I reached out to RJ to ask him to draw my avatars, and so he did, and now I'm in the process of figuring it out. No, I wasn't. I was actually just filling in time while I waited for you to get back. But I was just telling the audience about the progress on my video, even though it'll already be out by the time they're hearing this, and how I had asked you to jump in and assist in making them, which I was going to thank you for, because I appreciate it, seriously.
Yeah, and I'm so professional that I just left while we were recording the intro.
Yep, he sure is. But yeah, no, the design that you see in the video was kind of, you know, co-designed between RJ and myself, and by that I mean 99% of the Powerpuff design is already there. We just had to settle on hair, and so I threw a bunch of ideas at RJ, and he continued to draw them until I finally figured out one I kind of liked. So
yeah,
there you go. So, but yeah, so that's that update on that video. Do you have anything exciting you want to talk about, or at the intro here, or do you just...
They have nothing to do with cartoons, so I can't really share them.
Well, that's fair enough. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to relate. I mean,
no, I'm just kidding.
Just for us to kind of...
I'm excited to do this podcast.
Okay, that's good. I'm excited too. I really am. I think now we've got kind of like the first episode jitters out of our system, so we're
I feel relaxed, like good.
Yeah, it's a regular thing now.
It's regular now. We've accepted it in our own. Oh,
yeah. So, all right. Well, I don't have any other updates on my end. But yeah, like always, listening to this episode, let us know what you think. Feel free to give us any criticism or feedback wherever it's applicable, whether it's adding RJ on Twitter and telling him that he sucks, or coming into my Discord server and telling me how amazing I am.
Please remove the asshole from the podcast. I like the podcast, but I don't like the asshole. So if you can remove him, that would be great.
And don't tell us which one it is, even though it's obviously RJ.
Yeah. Leave it to the imagination, please.
That's not until season 2, I think.
Yeah.
Wait, is Imaginary Fiend season 2 or 3? I don't remember.
Season 2, come on.
I think it is, yeah.
It is.
Well, you know, we're not at season 2 yet. We're at season 1, so it's not my responsibility to know at this point in time.
So right.
Although I probably would have known 10 years ago, but You know,
I know
unfortunately,
now.
well, good for you. You didn't have to replace half of your brain capacity with a different version of Powerpuff that was absolute garbage.
Oh, yeah, you're
So,
right. You're right.
like literally, I'm working on undoing all of that and wiping that out of the
Undoing all the
recycle
brain
bin, so to
damage.
speak. So, yeah,
Yeah. But if
seriously,
you
like
like that version, we actually love it. So
I
don't get mad at us, please.
speak for yourself.
Oh yeah, get mad at Shadow.
Literally, I spent 5 years of my life talking about how it's the worst piece of media trash I've ever seen in my lifetime. So, it's fine because it's like, people be like, well, this one movie had a bad message or this one movie had terrible animation or whatever. But it's like, this was a 120 episode show.
You
Like,
don't like it
and
because you didn't give it a chance.
everything. I gave it a
That's
chance. I watched
I love
every
when people say
episode
stuff like that.
multiple times over. It drives me up a freaking wall,
Like you
man.
spent like 24
I
hours on
gave
that
that
series.
show I gave that show more chances than anybody else on this entire freaking planet, my dude. Like, I am certain nobody else in existence has spent as much time watching and working with that series than me. I guarantee it. Like, 5 years of my life went into that, okay? It doesn't come close to the original Powerpuff, and as I continue to work on these videos, I'll get further and further away and increase that gap again. But that's besides the point. The point is way too much time nobody ever should have spent, and at least it's there on the internet so people can see that instead of the actual show and not suffer. So, that's cool.
That am
That's
true.
cool. I see myself as, I'm doing a public service for
And you know
everybody
what?
on
That's
YouTube. So
detox for everybody who only is interested in the show when you want to complain about the reboots. I think it would do
yeah,
everybody good
there
to
you
just
go.
watch the original show. Like that. That's your therapy. Just do it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, that's in the past. We moved on from that, so we're all original all the time.
That's right.
And we'll probably never talk about that show. So, if you want to hear about it, go watch all my videos on YouTube. There's over 100 of them. So, there you go.
Yeah.
It is so weird to think that that's one of my biggest achievements on YouTube, anyways. Career-wise, that's nothing. Career-wise, that's nothing. But on YouTube, that was literally 5 years of my life, man. But I like to think my humongous entertainment. Well, I like to think my humongous entertainment video and also my more recent videos are much more impressive. But I mean, hey, it's true. If you are not continuing to get better and better as a creative, then you've peaked, and that's kind of it. So unless once you kind of settle, that you're kind of done. So. Until I get to a point where I can't see myself getting better, I'm going to keep striving to get better. So
right.
It's the right attitude to have, in my opinion. It's a good philosophy.
Yeah, and your videos are
always
all
strive
terrible,
to be better.
So, just keep improving.
Well, I mean, to be honest, dude, yeah, like the entirety of season 1, they're all
sorry.
garbage.
I didn't mean to do that.
No, you're not wrong.
No, but you don't understand. You have a fan base. I'm going to get attacked by your fans. So just,
My fans
me and Shadow have a great relationship.
We do. My fans are not going to attack you.
They are.
No, they're not.
Remove the shit stain
fine,
from the podcast, please.
Oh my god. No, but like seriously, before we get into it, that genuine advice, and I mean that, like, if you're not striving to get better, you may as well just stop. Because what's the point at that point? Like, seriously, I'm serious. Like, why at that point you're just going through the motions. If you're not always trying to get better, then what is there to work for? What is there to work towards? You always want to work towards that peak, but truthfully, you never want to get there until you're ready to be done. And when you're ready to be done, you're like, okay, that's it, I'm done. Cool, great, you did it, good job. But you don't want to hit that peak too early. And you also don't want to take forever to get there or never get there. Anyway, metaphor it's going on too long, so we're going to go ahead and move on. Also, let me know, everyone, what you think of the transition clips and the intro and outro and all that stuff, because maybe I'm over editing, maybe I'm not, I don't know, you tell me. But if you like it, I'll continue to edit those in. RJ has no idea what I'm talking about, but that's okay.
Yeah, I don't.
That's okay. It's okay. To be honest, I'm sure, like, based on the last 2 episodes, there's probably plenty of people listening that have no idea what you're talking about sometimes with how in depth you get. But, you know,
That's true.
I admire that. It's really interesting to listen to listening back.
I hope so.
Because it's like, man, well, it is, because it's like some things that, like, you know, I don't pick up on in the moment, because when we're having this, I'm constantly thinking about, like, my thoughts, and kind of like when you bring up a point, like something I might want to expand on or something. So like I miss a couple small details here and there. I'm listening back. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. But yeah, anyways. All right. I think that's enough of a tangent for one episode intro. So we're just going to go ahead and dive into the first of our 2 episodes today. Monkey See, Doggie Do, which is of course paired with Mommy Fearest. These were the first 2 episodes to air live on Cartoon Network, but they were not the first 2 produced, according to the production code order. So we're talking about it second.
Yeah, and
but
I'm not really certain why was the first one aired. I mean, the weird thing about Monkey See, Doggy Do is, like, I feel like some of the gags in it, you're supposed to know who the characters are first.
The Miss Bellum gag is the most obvious example of that.
Yeah, it's like, how are you supposed
100%.
to understand that gag if I really don't know. I think maybe what happened, maybe the crew was really proud of this one internally, and they thought this one was stronger to start with. Maybe that's why, or maybe it was just Cartoon Network. I have no idea.
I feel like part of it has to definitely be the fact that Mojo Jojo's in it, because he is the main antagonist, and so you kind of I would understand if this was the perspective of they wanted to lead with the main antagonist as kind of the introduction, so that way people kind of knew, like, hey, this is the main bad guy, you know, rather than lead with Roach Coach and then he's like not in the rest of the season and everyone's like, I thought this was the main bad guy, why is it not him, or whatever. Whereas if you start with Mojo, like right off the bat, you get also, I think Mojo leaves a better impression as a villain. This is by no means nowhere close to Mojo's best episode in the season or the series, like,
yeah,
nowhere
I kind of feel
close.
like this isn't my Mojo
but
yet. Like he mostly, that's the only interesting
not
thing he has going. It's like very funny, like you know, rambling speech dialogue. But I feel he became, like, he had more layers to him, like, by the time the series went on. And I like subtle Mojo. Like I like I like deliveries from Roger L. Jackson, like when he's just like chill too. Like I like somebody asking him, like he's at the grocery store, somebody asks, like, hey, you need help? He's like, oh, I'm good. I love stuff like that.
Yeah. There's definitely episodes later in this season, which we'll get to in a couple episodes, that do him way better justice. This was still them kind of figuring it out, but he definitely still leaves a better impression than Roach Coach did, at least in my opinion. I mean,
Roach Coach
as a
too,
villain,
but, you know, I think you'd want to see more of Mojo after his first appearance.
Yeah, especially because, like, Roach Coach at the end of the day, like, it's either a middle-aged guy or it's just a cockroach, which, like, yeah, it's, again, I like the concept and I like the idea, but in terms of, like, interesting design and personality and humor, like, Mojo's got all 3 of those things going for him that Roach Coach didn't. So,
and I mean, the thing about Roach Coach is that's like a one-time villain, I think, mostly because it's like the whole episode is exploring the idea that the girls are afraid of insects. So once you get that done, there's no reason for a Roach Coach to appear again.
yeah, I mean, where do you go from there?
Right. That's a one-time villain. But Mojo has legs.
Yeah, and so he can walk around, so, you know.
He could walk around and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's a character design tip.
Yeah.
Your characters have legs so they could walk around.
That's kind of the idea. But then again, explain the amoeba
That's why
boys.
they can't commit any crimes, because they don't have legs.
They don't have legs, so, you know, they're incompetent and incontinent.
But,
anyway,
but yeah, I'm not sure why they picked this one as the first one to go, but, you know, it did, and it was the highest rated premiere for the network at the time, which that might not mean much because Cartoon Network was kind of just starting out. And I think I think Foster's beat the record of this series for, like, highest rated premiere, but I think, you know, Cartoon Network was constantly growing.
Yes, I mean, the network was 6 years old by the time this aired. Yeah, it would have been six
Yeah, so it
because
was rapid
October of
expansion, but it
'92.
was good that it was successful because, like, as we covered through the past two episodes, the show kind of had like a rocky start to getting on air, just because they didn't want to make it. It tested poorly in focus tests, so they weren't really sure if they wanted to do this one. But thankfully, people internally like Mike Lazo and Linda Semensky went to bat for it, and we
Yeah,
got the
they saw
series.
the potential. They saw the potential, and it ultimately did pay off because, like, Powerpuff Girls was and still is one of the network's most successful franchises ever. Even though the original PBG's been off the air for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
The only other like Cartoon Network properties that probably match it are Adventure Time and Ben 10. Those are kind of like the three right there. I mean, everything else, like, yeah, you got Kids Next Door and Foster's and Dexter, but
Pure pure like financial statistics. I think Ben 10 and Powerpuff are the two highest grossing franchises in Cartoon Network history as a whole.
yeah, because Adventure Time doesn't have, well, A, as many years, and B, there wasn't as much merch potential in Adventure Time as Ben 10 and Powerpuff. There was merch, but not as much. And
Yeah.
that's kind of a key factor. Also,
But
I mean, the
between this
Powerpuff
and
Girls,
Ben
like,
10 though, Ben 10 I believe was greenlit in the first place because of its toyetic potential. Which isn't
oh,
taking anything away
100%.
from that show, but this was I think this was very much an unexpected hit.
No, and that's the thing with Powerpuff is the merch came later. Like, unlike a lot of shows, especially shows in the 80s and early 90s, which were made to sell toys, Powerpuff Girls wasn't like that. There wasn't a lot of thought put into, oh, this show could sell so many like makeup sets and Happy Meal toys and chocolate milk and all this other stuff. Like, that wasn't the driving factor. That was something that came later.
That's a creator driven model that
You know,
Nickelodeon really started, and then Cartoon Network did it too. And I believe products started rolling out pretty fast, but it's not like there were any products licensed before the series came out.
it was not day one. Like, there were not a bajillion toys on the shelves as soon as Monkey See Doggy Do was there. It's like, boom, check out all these Powerpuff Girls lunchboxes and backpacks and bed sheets.
But
And
yeah, that's
no,
what's significant about success. It's like merchandise, because I believe this was the highest rated premiere, but I think the show's ratings, from what I've seen, were just on par with the other shows. I don't think it was particularly any higher. I think actually I think it might have been, from what I've seen. It's like some weeks like Dexter was highest rated, maybe then some other show was the highest rate, then Powerpuff, but it wasn't particularly like higher. It didn't get higher ratings than other shows particularly, but what really made it stand out was merchandise potential.
yeah.
And that's why it's such an odd show. Like I've never seen another show where like you see this phenomenon of Powerpuff. Like, a lot of people buy the merchandise who don't watch the show. And also it's
Yeah.
considered a girl show in some people's eyes, and it was shown to have higher ratings with boys. So that's I can't think of any show that's like that.
I can't think of any show that's like that either until, I mean, so
I know where you're
it's
going with
debatable.
that,
It's
but
hard to tell. Yeah, I won't go there.
but
But
it's not. But
I will say to your first point though, as soon as you said a bunch of people buy the merch but don't watch the show, you know what my mind immediately went to? Do
but
you have a guess? Do you have a guess?
I can't. I'm lost.
You can't guess a single show that a bunch of people buy merch for that probably don't watch. They don't watch.
I don't know. I'm lost.
I'll give you a hint.
Okay.
Hot Topic.
Okay. Hot Topic.
No.
Oh. Okay. I think some of the
There
Zim
you
people
go.
watch it.
Some people do, but I guarantee you there's a lot that don't. They just like Gurr.
That's true. You know what? I want answers. If somebody was into collecting Gur merch, did you guys watch the show? I think most of them. I don't think there were any fakers. Also, I have nothing against people buying merchandise of shows they don't watch.
Oh, neither do
Yeah.
I, dude. I love Invader Zim too. I'm not giving anyone crap for that. I'm just saying there are definitely people I know that would wear Invader Zim stuff to like school back like 10, 15 years ago, whatever. They'd wear Invader Zim stuff and they would not watch the show and not know what it is. I mean, like,
Yeah, I think some
but
cartoon characters are fashionable. Like I think like something similar to that. I remember Tweety Bird was really big in the 2000s on like apparel and that stuff. And I don't think it's because Tweety Bird was such an amazing character. I mean, like Tweety Bird was okay, but like I don't think they were anybody's favorite character who watched it. But, they were just good for merchandising. That sometimes stuff is just attractive to wear.
Well, do you remember? Well, you might not. You might have been too young. But do you remember in the early 2000s where like people would sell like all sorts of like towels and shirts of the Looney Tunes characters, like with like hipster, like, or not hipster, hip hop, like gold chains and gold teeth and backwards hats, and
I
like
love that stuff.
it was like the gangster life or whatever.
Yeah, it was gangster.
Like,
Looney
do you
Tunes.
remember when yeah, like why was that
that,
ever a
that
thing?
basically like that basically is the reason for Space Jam. I think that stuff is awesome.
Yeah.
That stuff should come back.
I mean, I agree. I think it's the goofiest thing ever, but and
it.
I mean that sort of stuff's way better than like Looney Tunes. What was it? Was it Looney Tunes Back in Action, or was it?
I think yeah. I think both of the
remember.
live action Looney Tunes movies are pretty terrible, but I love the merchandise. I think it's awesome. Like
it was Back in Action, yeah. Oh, with Brendan Fraser, I forgot about that.
Oh my gosh, I love that stuff.
I haven't seen that movie in probably like, gosh.
Like I do want to see the Roadrunner with Tim's on again. Like I'd love to see that stuff again.
Oh my god.
But yeah, Powerpuff is just an odd show. It
really is one of a kind.
It is.
I mean, even to this day, it's still one of a kind. Like, yeah, there's other like female-centric shows, but like nothing captures like nothing even comes close to matching the identity that this show in particular has. Because like RJ said, this show was mega popular with young boys.
Yeah, and I'm just like it's just odd because like I'm just thinking about executives and the way networks work, and it's just weird that this made it. It's like we should all be very happy that this even made it to the tube because I can't think nowadays of like executives greenlighting something like this.
No,
because if you think about like audience wise, especially like Cartoon Network and a lot of those kids network, especially I would say Cartoon Network, like they do kind of skew boys a little bit. Like they skew boys. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Like they do want more boys to watch it than girls. So you're greenlighting this like really cutesy, like girly looking show, and you want more boys to watch than girls. It's just like it's such an odd concept, but they went for it, and I'm glad they went for it, and it worked in their favor. But pretty unlikely hit, I think.
I don't know if I guess it would be irony. I guess is the best term for it, but
irony. Well, there was an article because Cartoon Network had a NASCAR promotion. I think before the series even premiered, so like there's a NASCAR Powerpuff Girls car, and there was a life-size one that was actually used in a race for promotion. But I remember that article. It's funny, the guy who wrote the Powerpuff car was like, I don't think he loved getting that car.
I'm sure he didn't.
He was like why did you do this to me? But they had that NASCAR promotion. But I remember them saying in that article that basically their campaign was just like to show boys that the show was action packed. They're just like, if we could get them to watch once, I think we could get them hooked on this series. But that's a risk. Like the show was such a risk, and I'm glad it worked.
Yeah, same. Because if it didn't, we wouldn't have the show as we know it. So, I'm thankful for the way things kind of worked out.
Yeah.
But
let's talk about this episode then.
Yeah. So, like we mentioned, this is an introductory episode for Mojo Jojo. Essentially, what happens is Basically, what happens in this episode is Mojo ends up stealing the Anubis dog head from the Townsville Museum, as well as the Anubial jewels, which allows him to turn the entire world into dogs, as Rob Renzetti would say. That, in fact, happens. Mojo turns the world into dogs, and the Powerpuff Girls try to stop him, and they do, and it's really cool.
How do you feel about this
overall?
One,
Overall, it's just kind of middle of the road. I mean, it's not bad, but it's just fine. it doesn't really capture it doesn't capture the feeling of what the latter half of season 1 really kind of figures out. This is very much of one of the first episodes. You can just tell just by watching it.
Yeah, I think, you know what, for a while I had like a lower opinion on it. Not that I didn't like it, but I just didn't care for it as much. I didn't go back to it as much. But that's more of a perspective of somebody who watched the series a bunch of times. But looking back on it, I was like, oh, okay, like this episode's not so bad. It's funny. It actually looks pretty good. Like it's pretty funny for what it is. I just, I think I do like these early episodes, but I really like the second half of the first season.
Yeah, the second half is really where they hit their stride for sure. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think there's definitely some good jokes in here. One of my favorite jokes in the entire episode is where basically the entire introduction for Mojo's character. I mean, before you even really get to see him or hear him talk or anything, but the first scene after the narrator pans through the city and he's like, everyone's sleeping. Oh, but wait, someone's not asleep. And it's this whole like super like quiet, precise stealth mission. Mojo's like kind of sneaking through the museum. He puts this picture in front of the camera. He pulls out this aerosol spray can and sprays the laser so he can slip through and poke the Anubis head out. He cuts the tripwire. Like he does all this super elaborate, like super spy sneaking, like not alerting anyone. All these maneuvers and strategic motions, and then at the end he's like walking out in the museum with the Anubis head and he's like, oh, he snaps his fingers like, oh shoot, I forgot, and he just smashes the glass open and takes the Anubis tools out. It's so brilliant. That's brilliant.
That took me a while to realize what was happening there. I was like, oh, like he's an idiot. Like
yeah, no, that's the kind of like subtle humor that I love in this show. Like, and that sort of thing is everywhere.
Yeah, that's why I'm glad I rewatched this episode, because it's like, this episode is really funny. Like, I like this watching it again.
Yeah, because it's like if you're just like a casual viewer or whatever, you might not even like. I didn't notice that the first time. I never noticed that as a kid. It took me until like maybe the time before I watched it for my video, so a couple years ago, where I finally picked up. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've never got that joke before, but that's brilliant. That's the kind of like little details that I love in this show. And like, again, this is only one of the first episodes and it's very apparent.
Yeah, Mojo, let's talk about Mojo's dialogue a bit. Did you have any favorite Mojo monologues in this one? Because that's half the humor of this episode.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, though, is like Mojo never really gets frustrated in this episode, and that's usually when Mojo's like best Molinguish comes out.
Yeah.
Is when he's like super frustrated and agitated.
And this one, he just
honestly,
all of his dialogue's basically monologues.
Yes, and it's pretty tame throughout. Like the energy overall is like very tame.
There's some funny ones though. He's so stupid. Like I'm just noticing how stupid some of these are. Like basically Buttercup's just running up like as a dog to bite him in the butt.
Yeah.
And he's just like I am higher than you, which puts me out of your reach. If you were up here, you might get me. It's so stupid. And I love that. I think my favorite scene in the whole episode is when they have the army of dogs and he's just repeating like obeying commands is what you will do. I will give you commands and you will obey them. And you see like the still shot of the dogs just like staring at each other.
Yeah, they just look at each other.
That's my favorite. I think that's the funniest part of this episode.
Yeah, that's fair. I like when he's like turning everyone into dogs and that one guy just runs up to him. He's like, hey, stop that. And he just blasts him with it.
This one feels very Jay Wordy too. It feels underdog too. Like, which underdog is a huge influence on this show also. And he makes the narrator into a dog.
Yeah, he does. Which fourth wall break right there in one of the first episodes. There you go.
He's like, oh, there's a Powerpuff signal in this episode.
Yeah, one of 2 episodes to have it.
Yeah, some random episode in the 4th season. They're just like, oh yeah, we have a Powerpuff signal. Let's use that.
Oh yeah, this episode isn't long enough, and we had this music video that these people made, so let's just pad the episode with that. You will learn very quickly I'm not a fan of Super Friends. I think it's
cute, but
it's not impressive in the
I like
slightest.
The princess part.
It's such a boring episode.
That
It's boring, but we'll get to that when we get to season
yeah.
4.
And I do like the gags of the show's main cats being turned into dogs. It's just such a shame that it mean nothing to somebody watching this for the first time.
Cause yeah, like we were kind of hinting at, there's a joke where the mayor and Ms. Bellum get turned into dogs, and Ms. Bellum walks on screen, and you can't see like above her neck like always. And then after a moment, the camera just pans up and you see her, and she's a dog and she's barking. And like, if you had seen any other episode and you'd kind of been in on the joke that, oh yeah, we never see her face, then that joke would be great. It'd be clever. But the fact that, like, when you think about someone as a first time viewer watching this episode live for the first time, you would never get that joke because you've never been introduced to Miss Bellum. So you wouldn't get that gag. It works on repeat watches, so it's not a huge deal. And most people, they wouldn't even really notice it.
And I mean,
first time
also
through.
you don't really know who the professor is if you're watching this for the first time.
Also true. The girls just kind of come home and there's just this
Like, you
tiny
hear the
little
narrator, like you hear the narrator like talking to him while he's
still
sleeping.
trying to find that unified theory, eh, Professor?
Yeah, but like, and I think the professor stuff is very funny. I love his like, oh, wow, wow, wow.
Bow wow, wow, wow. Yeah.
And I love his design.
Puppy Professor is cute, but
It's very cute. I think, what, they should have made a toy. There actually might be a toy of Puppy Professor.
yeah,
Maybe it's from Japan. I think I've seen something. And the
I
professor
can't
as a
say that
dog
I
is who
have.
tells them that it was bow wow wow wow.
Yeah, I love that whole scene where the girls are like trying to get the professor to just tell them like who did it, and he's like, "Wait, first I want to play fetch."
Yeah.
And so the girls like do this whole thing where they're like
They play fetch.
they go get him water and they play fetch with him, and he's like, it's just like, okay, all right, Professor. I see.
Yeah, some
you
of
have
them
your
were enjoying
priorities
being
straight.
dogs because the mayor liked being played with too.
Oh yeah, he sure did. And then Bubbles left, and he was sad.
I think the mayor would do that if he wasn't a dog.
I mean, yeah, you're probably
I
right.
think they were just taking advantage of being dogs. Also, that the guy eating sushi freaks me out.
Yeah, that one's always that joke is weird, and it also never made sense to me because like, why does everyone else return to normal with their clothes on, but he just
Oh
doesn't?
no! I love the joke. I like how weird it is.
I mean, it's a funny joke, but it doesn't make sense.
I love that it's there. It's very freaky though.
little bit.
I'm not sure what that dog was doing.
I don't want to know what that dog was doing.
I don't either. Oh well, we should talk a little bit about Mojo, where he came from.
Yeah,
So
do you want to talk about
we
his
talked about Mojo.
origin?
Mojo came from, and this whole episode came from Craig's student film Monkey See Doggie Do. Same idea, just very rough. We reviewed it in the episode where we talked about the Whoop Ass Stew shorts. But it was
And now I'll turn the world into dogs.
Yeah, if you didn't see it, it's really funny. Rob Renzetti,
no.
Rob Renzetti, who's the creator of My Life as a Teenage Robot, who was friends with Craig in college. He did the voice of Mojo. It's very funny because it's like we covered it. It's like it's kind of shitty, like on purpose too, because it's supposed to be funny, but it's just it's very strange to watch. But they just reuse this episode for the series, and it works well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's definitely cool that they kind of took a concept that Craig had like all the way back then and kind of fully realized
Because
it.
overall, it's the same series.
Yeah,
It didn't
basically.
change that much. But yeah, I think even before the series started, I think Craig had a pretty good idea that Mojo was the main villain. Like that was their arch nemesis, Mojo. I think you see a Space Ghost interview like from like the What a Cartoon era. He did like they were talking about what's next for the Powerpuff Girls, and Craig basically said, "Oh, you haven't met him yet, but there's this guy named Mojo Jojo." And that's like, that's their arch nemesis. So I think he kind of knew a lot about this show ahead of time.
Yeah, he had it all figured out. I mean,
yeah, Mojo doesn't really have any of his characteristics in that Whoop Ass Stew film, but like he really figured out Mojo when he went to series. According to him, he didn't even write any dialogue for him until he had to write dialogue. I'm guessing for the audition.
Most likely.
Yeah, and his voice is Roger L. Jackson, obviously.
Yep, voice of Ghostface from the Scream franchise is what he was most notably known for back
And
then.
it's funny he comes from like a horror background because like he's like Mojo can be scary.
He can be,
Yeah.
but he's also
Yeah, he's
hilarious.
hilarious. He's an idiot most of the time. You really see that in the
Yeah.
movie too. Like he has some like very like villainy performances, but he could capture that like
Dude,
that villain.
oh my gosh. Not to get too much on a tangent, but you bring it up. But that monologue where Mojo flips out because all the other apes are like just disregarding him and completely blowing off his plan, and oh my
Oh man,
gosh,
they cut it
it is
down in the
such a
final
shame.
film.
That's what I was gonna say. It is such a shame they cut out the whole thing, because when you watch the behind the scenes shot of Roger recording that, it's like the most incredible thing
It's
ever.
amazing.
Like
It's
seriously.
amazing, and it's like one of the funniest parts of the film just because he loses it. And that's him becoming Mojo.
Yeah, 100%.
Like he finally loses it, and then he starts reiterating everything and becoming obsessive and weird. They've actually said, Ringworm were saying that the movie they didn't, this wasn't they didn't have this together like at the time where they were starting the series, but by the movie, like they said Mojo, like the first time he took over the world, he was a pretty good, competent villain, and then in the series, basically, he's like losing confidence and he's less sure of himself. So he starts reiterating. He's basically like going crazy, spiraling downwards in the series,
Yep.
which I think is really funny. But
Mhm.
yeah, he's just like he's a bunch of inspirations. And also, I do want to correct, he's not wearing a turban.
No, that's a helmet.
Yeah, he's Craig got the design for that helmet from a Japanese toy. I think it was from a tokusatsu show. But he just got the toy as a kid and he just based his helmet design on that. It's not a turban. And I feel like there needs to correct it because I feel like if it was a turban, that would be offensive. Like I wouldn't be cool if that was a turban. I think that's a I'm glad it's not a turban. But it isn't, because a lot of even official material would refer to it as a turban. It's not a turban.
No, it's literally. I mean, the helmet literally like cracks and breaks and
Yeah.
smashes.
I
Like a
just
turban can't
Yeah, I feel
do
the need to
that.
correct that because I don't Mojo's really isn't a take on any ethnicity. Because I've heard a lot about that online too. Like he's not really Mojo's made up. But the voice that he was directed to do, Roger L. Jackson came in and was asked to do Peter Lorre. So basically, like, Peter Lorre is that actor from Hollywood in the 40s who's like known for creepy characters, and all his characters talked like this. Basically, like, Ren from Ren and Stimpy. He gets roasted a lot of Looney Tunes. Like they roast the shit out of them. But basically it's it's you see his voice in a bunch of cartoons. But yeah, Roger was asked to do a Peter Lorre voice, basically like an evil Peter Lorre. That's basically what he was doing. And then I believe in a callback, Craig asked him Craig asked him to add a samurai tinge. So I guess if anything, maybe he's Japanese, but I don't think he's really meant to be a take on a Japanese man.
No, I
But
don't think so at
they
all.
added, they added a samurai tinge. So Peter Lorre plus samurai tinge plus evil is Mojo.
Yeah, and I think it works. I
It
really
works.
do. I mean, the delivery is great.
Yeah, and him reiterating stuff comes from the Super Dictionary, which is like yeah, Craig had like this Super Dictionary. It was this thing from DC Comics, and they used to have like surreal sentences, and they would just reiterate themselves like crazy. I don't know what it was for. I believe maybe it was for teaching people English or something, or maybe it was for really little kids.
Mm-hmm.
But they were just like explain every piece of dialogue in like detail or comic panel. Yeah, here's a quote. Crypto made Superman laugh. He made Superman make an amusing sound come from his throat. That's an actual line of dialogue in the book. So that, and also mixed with Speed Racer. I think
Oh
Speed
yeah,
Racer
hundred
came
percent.
back like into fruition in the 90s, like ironically, because the dub of that show is amazing. There's a great episode of Dexter. One of the
Yeah,
best
that's one of
Dexters,
the
actually.
best
That's
Dexter
one voted by
episodes.
Craig. That's his Speed Racer obsession on show. And apparently they were airing those back on MTV in the 90s. for I guess like college kids or whoever wanted to watch it, like ironically. That was in the air. And Craig said him and Rob would watch it and just like laugh. Because that dub really is remarkable. And all that, mix all that stuff together and you get Mojo. And some people's favorite character for good reason.
Yeah, I mean, no, Mojo's definitely one of the best.
Yeah.
One of the best for sure. Not my personal favorite, but he's up there. He's top 3 for sure.
Oh, your favorite's him, right?
Duh.
I don't know my favorite.
Who's the best, dude? I love him. But we'll get there when we get there.
Get there when we get there. Okay. I think we're good to talk about another episode. Wait, let me actually mention this was boarded by Don Shank. Yeah, he works at Pixar now, but I believe he started on Ren and Stimpy, then he started working on Dexter and Powerpuff. By season 2, he'll become the show's art director, but for season 1, he's just credited as a board artist. And you could kind of see like some of his episodes, this one a little bit, but like you could really see when we get to Pace Mix Waste, like you could kind of see like he has like weird mouth shapes. Mojob 2 is an episode that he did later on. I think he tries to do more exaggerated things with the characters, almost like a little bit cartoonier than the other board artists, and it seeps into the episodes.
Yeah, just a couple of the things I wanted to touch on really briefly. I really love the designs for the girls as dogs. They're very simple, but cuteness, simplicity, less is more. And the simplicity of the design just makes them amazing. I remember as a kid, I literally wanted like the girls as dogs as a pet because they were just so adorable. I just loved it.
And they're not stopped by dogs. Like they're super dogs.
Yeah, I know. Like there's literally an action scene. Yeah, dude. That's literally the first taste of action in the entire show, and it's dog fighting. So he just eats Bubbles
like head.
Yeah, dude. I hope you love the chomp sound effect because they put that on blast. Yeah. It's great. It's so great.
Yeah, that's a trademark of the series. Just like you just like it's like action scenes, but there's a bunch of like Hanna-Barbera sound effects on it.
Oh yeah, I mean they had access to that library, so of course they were going to take advantage of it wherever they could.
Right.
But yeah, no, I mean I love that. I love the whole climax of like Buttercup basically like or Mojo like jumping up on the pedestal where they can't reach him and he's like teasing him or whatever, and then Buttercup runs around and bites him on the butt.
It's so childish. I love it.
It is. But it's like that's how they take down the villain.
And
he sticks his tongue
this
out
loss ate at Mojo so much that they made a sequel to it. We'll talk about it later. Which,
Monkey See, Doggie too.
Slightly controversial because it's kind of a retread, but I think it's funny. But we're people who like the series and love Mojo so much they're willing to like watch anything he'll do if it's funny. So like, but that's neither here or there.
Right.
And because it's one of the early episodes, for whatever reason, I feel like I remember this one looking worse than it did, but like actually the animation is pretty good on this.
Yeah, I don't ever recall it looking bad. I mean, like it still looks different, and you can tell, especially in a lot of the shots. First of all, the mayor has his actually, I guess that's not this episode. That's the next episode. But the mayor does have a different design for the first couple episodes of the series.
Yeah, it's very subtle. I don't. There's an early model sheet. I guess maybe they took this design because it wasn't as easy to animate or something. There's a slight tweak. He's a little more. I think he's cute in those first episodes, but he changed a little bit. Yeah, I told you that. Mm-hmm. That's how cool I am.
Even though I've noticed it.
Oh,
but
no, you didn't.
Okay. All right, RJ.
Yeah, I need all the credit. Thank you.
There's plenty of other things you've taught me, but that's not one of them. So
Yes, it is. Let me have this. But yeah,
I'll let you have the 50 other things.
The 50 other things. Yeah, let me have everything else. Gendy directed this, which I don't know if I touched on this in another episode, but directing credits. There's two direction credits on Powerpuff. One is the first one. The first one is the person who times the episode. So basically, timing. Back then, they didn't. I believe. I don't think most of these Hanna-Barbera shows didn't use animatics at all. Actually, so somebody would slug the storyboard. So they put like they call it big timing because eventually you'd give it to an X sheet guy, but like most of like the I guess like the timing that somebody does a storyboard and somebody just like it's kind of like making an animatic on the boards. Sort of, more technical than that. And then somebody takes that and they use that to animate the episode. And X sheets are basically, I guess I'll describe them because they're not animated in America, but they tell the overseas guys what to do. I've heard it like I thought the simplest description of X sheets where somebody said they're animating without paper, animating without drawing. And I think that's a brilliant explanation of it. The animation direction was done by the credits are James T. Walker, Robert Alvarez, Richard Collado. I'm actually not that familiar with Richard, but I know James and Robert, like they have a long history at Hanna-Barbera and Cartoon Network. And I know like especially Robert has worked really well with these new guys coming into Cartoon Network. So working with these like 20 somethings, he had a good relationship with them and they really liked him. And he's a veteran. I believe he just retired. Yeah. There's actually I've been trying to find interviews with a lot of these guys for so long, and there's another podcast, What's in My Head podcast, where there's a guy who has a few interviews with Robert Alvarez. Those are really good. Like if you're into these Cartoon Network shows of this period, like there's a lot of great interviews I think you'd like on that show.
All right. Well, you got anything else? Oh, okay. There's one other thing I want to add. I kind of mentioned it last episode. I think Insect Inside is the better introduction to the girls as characters. I think that kind of sets them up a little bit better than this episode does. I think that's
better. Like, this that's episode the pilot. I think that's a better pilot.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying, though, is despite being the first episode to air, I think Insect Inside does a better job introducing the girls as characters. But I will say one thing that I do still appreciate is this would have been the very first thing you ever see the Powerpuff Girls do. Is right after Mojo steals the jewels, the girls are floating in the museum, and they basically ask the curator, like, hey, do you have any other clues? Do you know anything else? And he's like, well, nope, we pretty much have this. And then the girls are like, all right, spread and search. And what do? They shred the entire building to pieces. They just fly up the stairs and rip through the artwork and all this stuff. And it's like, that is exactly how you introduce these characters. 100%. Like, yeah, we don't get their personalities, but we get the concept from this.
Because like you start hearing like when the girls show up, like you start to hear like these higher energy, like blips and like boops and stuff. That was a very immature way to talk about that. But yeah, blips and boops. You just hear that, like that's the girl's character. Like they're so high energy.
Yeah.
And they just damage everything. Yep. I love that.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's the perfect way to introduce the concept of what you're about to see.
Even though I agree with the guy, I don't want those British policemen trouncing around my beautiful museum either.
Yeah, right.
And that's Tom Kenny doing like his like prude voice. And Buttercup fights in her sleep.
I think
that's what I thought you were gonna say.
Yep.
I love that she fights in her sleep. She's already ready.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's about all I really wanted to say about this episode. So if it works for you, I'm ready to move on.
Let's move on.
Okay. The second half of episode 2 of season 1 is Mommy Fearest. This episode is the first Sedusa episode of the series. Another introductory villain episode, as is a lot of the first half of season 1.
Mm-hmm.
In this episode, the professor runs into a woman at the grocery store named Ima.
Good lady.
I'm a good lady. A super subtle, not suspicious at all name. And they basically start a relationship, and before long, Ima moves in to the girl's home and begins to become the raging evil stepmother figure that borderline abuses them, and basically makes their lives miserable. Only to find out in the end that, spoiler alert, she was a villain the whole time, and it was Sedusa. So, what do you think of this episode? How would you rate this one?
You know what? I like this episode. I think this is kind of because it's early in the series. There's like weird tonal thing in it. I think I kind of like the drama of it, but this almost sometimes plays as like a semi straightforward drama, and I don't think it's supposed to. I don't know. I don't want to be like I don't want to be like an executive and say this episode needs more jokes, but I don't know. It's a little sometimes it's a little too heightened. Like it plays as like cheesy serious drama sometimes, and I don't think that was the intention.
I don't think so either. This episode is based on a gosh, was it? I forget if it was 79 or if it was an 80s movie. But Mommy Dearest is the episode, or is the movie that this episode is based on. The film is actually 1981 biographical film based on an autobiography of the same name, Mommy Dearest, that is written from the perspective of Christina Crawford, talking about her abusive adoptive mother, Joan Crawford, who is a famous Hollywood actress and whatnot. Basically, this episode is based on a movie, based on an autobiography, which is obviously based on a true story if it's an autobiography. So there you go. Kind of going down the line.
Right.
But I've never seen the film, but just watching, like, I watched some highlights and some clips from it, and just from seeing like that, I could definitely see, yeah, the inspirations and ties here are very, very apparent. What's interesting about Mommy Fearest that I learned in making my video is that Mommy Fearest is actually super abundant, like everywhere. And this is what I mean. So first of all, lots of GIFs. Between the girls asleep in front of the TV to Bubbles' eyes watering up to the girls and or Ima sitting on the chair and turning on the light to the girls sneaking inside the house. There's just a lot of like iconic like shots.
This episode is all over,
yes,
all over the internet. Yeah.
Yes, there's a lot of iconic shots that are taken from this episode. The shot of the professor like alone in the bed by himself. I don't know what it is with Mommy Fearest, but people just gift the heck out of this episode. Not only that, it appears in M. Night Shyamalan's Unbreakable, and it appears in an episode of a show that I don't remember the name of.
Really?
I don't remember the name of the show. Yeah, it was.
Oh crap. Yeah.
Everwood.
Oh crap! Isn't
the show was Everwood? There you go. Yeah. So this episode is very abundant for some reason. I don't know why this episode managed to kind of accrue that, but yeah. So.
Yeah, the bubbles. A lot of the bubbles stuff is like stuff you'll see on like Twitter with like quotes that Bubbles didn't actually say. You know, it's kind of like I think sometimes like Powerpuff screenshots are like this generation's equivalent of Live, Laugh, Love.
Yeah, I mean, tonally yes, but you know what? James Venable, it doesn't matter. He stuck with it, and man, he was able to flip the soundtrack on a dime. Like, one moment you'll have this like super like melodramatic like violin playing this sob story theme, and then all of a sudden it cuts to this like heavy, loud brass just blast of noise when the tone shifts and Ima becomes this like evil stepmother.
It's perfect like 70s B-movie music.
Yeah, for real. Also, there's one moment in particular when the professor and Ima are out on their first date, and there's a clock transition, and the melody that plays sounds identical, like note for note identical to the 8 Melodies theme from Earthbound Zero, aka Mother 1, a Nintendo NES game. And I'm convinced that it was probably completely coincidental, but it would be really cool if James Venable was actually a Mother fan. But I doubt it. It's probably
it's probably coincidental. Yeah.
But it would be, I'm just saying it'd be really cool if it wasn't. But
nope, you're alone on that one.
Well, okay. Well, somebody out there, go listen to the 8 Melodies theme from Mother 1.
I am going to do that.
NES,
I'm going to do that.
And then Do it, and then listen to that brief melody that plays when the clock transitions, and you'll hear that it's basically the same note for note progression. It's like 5 notes, but still. Mother needs more representation. And besides, Mommy Fearest, Mother, come on now. James Venable is a Mother fan, and that's my headcanon, and I'm sticking to it.
I just need to address the most important thing about this episode. For 2 seconds, the Puppet Pals are in it. The TV Puppet Pals are in this episode. Puppet Pal Clem is voiced by Tom Kenny. Puppet Pal Mitch is voiced by Rob Paulson, and that's his only credit on the show. So for this episode. And I think it's
that's his only credit in the entire show.
That's his only credit, like in general, in the animation industry. His career didn't go anywhere.
Yeah. He was literally just one of the Puppet Pals.
I love the idea of
that's
that.
All he is.
Just he's called for like 2 seconds of Puppet Pal dialogue. They're just like, can you come into the studio? I was like, that's it.
All right, you're done. Go home.
He's like, remember those characters that were in some episodes of Dexter for a second? Yeah. I think these are actually These are Craig's creations. So, he just put him in the episode.
Yeah, why not?
I love them. I love the TV Puppet Pals. I love like their Dexter sometimes between like segments would have these like
the Justice Friends.
Not even that. I'm talking about like the ones that were like about 30 seconds
long. Oh, you're talking
long.
about like the brief
like the gags. There's one where the Justice Friends were like somebody's like taking over the school and like Major Glory gives them a Justice fruit pie. But like there's they did some like Puppet Pal shorts in live action.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember those?
That's right. Yeah, barely, but yeah, I do.
Yeah, I love those. Yeah, but these are the TV Puppet Pals. I wish we could see them more.
Yeah, I mean, don't they? Do they appear in another episode, or is this the only?
No,
one?
I think that's it for Powerpuff.
I think this might be the only one. Yeah,
and the series went downhill from there because how could you not have the Puppet Pals in it?
After episode 2.
It was a good idea, but it just didn't work out. Yeah, I think actually, I talked a little bit about like forums, nerd. I talked a little bit more nerds on forums and in like the episode about the pilots.
Oh boy, do we have a story? Do we have another story here?
But there were some talk back forums I found from '98.
Oh boy, what did you find?
I can't even remember all of them, but like there were mixed opinions. I just think I think it's just funny the idea of somebody saying it's not as good as like the pilots. They're just like well, it's like I don't know about this show. Like it's like this is disappointing. And some people were just like it's too hip.
Oh my god.
I was like it's too hip. It's just
how pretentious.
They said it's too inspired by rave culture. There were a lot of people talking about rave culture.
It's just funny. It's like no matter what day and age you're in, there will always be someone complaining about it.
You know what? I'm gonna call somebody out. Let's get trashy.
Call them out.
I saw this from like I think before the series even came out. A midi of Cartoon Brew. Okay. I saw him on a forum like the series was coming out and like I think it's before the series came out. I think it was announced like that was greenlit or something. It was probably some forum from like 96 or 97. And like some guy in a forum was just like, "Hey, am I the only one who doesn't get this project? Like, it doesn't like this card like the Powerpuff Girls. This cartoon seems stupid. He's like, it seems so devoid of humor or like I then Amity responded to that. He was just like yeah. He's like yeah, I agree with you. It's just like it's okay as a short cartoon, but as like as something long form, it's just dumb. And which is funny because years later, he targeted Lauren Foss and Robin Zeddy when My Little Pony came out for the death of creator-driven animation. And he was calling them sellouts because he's just like, you guys went from creator-driven series like Powerpuff to this toy-driven trash. And the show didn't come out yet. And he was just like he was decrying the death of creator-driven animation for a series he thought was stupid in 96. So take that, Amity.
Called out.
Yeah. I'm just kidding. He like how would he know if the series was good or not in 1996? But still.
Yeah, I barely know.
I just thought that was very funny to find that.
Anything to say?
Yeah.
I've heard of the website and I've heard not to respect it. So I don't know.
Well, there's good and bad of it.
I just don't care. I've never been on the website.
I'm not even going
I
to
don't
take a
think I
side
ever
on
will. I
Midi.
just
I'm
don't
not going to
care.
antagonize him. I'm just, I'm just making fun of the fact that I saw that because I thought that was very funny and I didn't expect it. But there was some pre-series hype from the show online, especially because a lot of people thought it was anime. And this show, we said before that this show isn't really as inspired as anime as people think it is. The girls aren't takeoffs of anime characters. They just aren't. I think at most they're takeoffs off of Sanrio characters, like the girls themselves. But I think mostly it's inspired by American cartooning, except the action sequences. The action sequences are inspired by anime. Especially you see by the time they get to the movie, Akira is thrown around a lot. They would say internally like that, they're basically it's like we're making Akira. But but yeah, a lot of people did just think it was anime. It's just like oh my god, like anime on Cartoon Network. Like, have you seen this anime? Like I saw some anime like called the Powerpuff Girls, and people were waiting for it to come out.
Well, Toonami was already a thing, right? I'm pretty sure Toonami was a thing by
I'm not sure.
98.
Maybe it was. You might be right.
I think it was.
You know
I'm
what? I
pretty
think
sure
I think
Toonami
Sailor
started in
Moon was
97.
on Cartoon Network by that point.
Hang on. I'm just going to look up when Toonami started. 97. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Started in 97 with Thundercats, Cartoon Roulette, Voltron, The Real Adventures of Johnny Quest, so Hanna-Barbera stuff. And then hang on. Actually it did start in 97, but it was hosted by Moltar from Space Ghost, but that was until 99. So actually PPG was on CN before anime hit in 1999
Gotcha.
on Toonami.
Gotcha.
So it was July of 99 was when the anime started to hit. Actually, here we go. The first program of the Tom era, the Sailor Moon episode Sailor Mercury Moving On, premiered. It introduced the Powerpuff Girls on Toonami, becoming the first Cartoon Network original series on the block. Also introduced that day was the Midnight Run, a late night block.
Yeah, I'm not really sure why they put it on Toonami.
Powerpuff Girls aired on for probably the reason you just said. People thought it was anime-esque.
A lot of people did, yeah.
And it wasn't the only time Powerpuff aired on Toonami. They aired the Powerpuff movie on Toonami.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. I know. Yeah, and
so
there was a lot of inkling. There was pre-series hype. There's just different forums, and there were people looking for merchandise very early on. Maybe after, maybe when the series was just premiering, they were just like, oh, is there any shirts at this? I can't find any shirts at this show. But yeah, let's talk about the actual episode. I'm sorry.
That's okay. So like I kind of mentioned, this episode does show the mayor in his other design.
Yeah.
He's a little stouter.
He's so cute. Yeah.
But let me think. I really like this as an idea. I love the idea of Sedusa as a villain.
Yeah.
And she had a ton of potential in the show, and I wish she had more than 3 episodes.
I mean, to be honest, I like her appearances. I like all of her appearances. I think her best appearance is Something's Amiss for sure.
Something's Amiss, yeah.
But and I love Jennifer Hale voices her, and she's amazing. She's great. Yep. It's such a great performance, and she's amazing at screaming. She does a lot. People know she does a ton of video games, but also another Cartoon Network character. She voices Billy's mom. That's a nuts. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Billy's mom is just nuts, and she just screams a lot. She's good at screaming. Princess screams a lot.
Even I was gonna say, even in the same show, she's Princess.
Yeah. Oh my god, she screams so much. It's very funny. I love her performances.
Yeah, no,
I think I like Princess a little more.
I mean, this episode really shows off Jennifer Hale's range, because she literally in the same sentence will go from screaming and being totally maniacal and evil to this super over dramatic, sympathetic, oh, woe is me, type
right,
deal.
As you kids would
she's
say,
able to flip on a dime.
As you kids would say, she understood the assignment, because her acting is really good in this episode. I love it.
Yeah,
it's good. Yeah. I like that, but I kind of feel the reason she doesn't appear much is I like her, but she's not as versatile as Mojo. And and the episode she's in, they just find a male character from the show that she can manipulate. After you do that, where do you go from there? Like, she's fun. She's not as funny as like somebody like Princess or Fuzzy. But I like every time she's used. I love her, especially Something's Amiss. That's an
Well,
amazing
that's the
episode.
thing, and not every villain in the show needs to be a joke or goofy. It's good to have
Well,
some
most of them
serious
are pretty
villains in there
goofy. I
too.
think even him, like all of them are pretty goofy. I think she I guess the best thing about her is she's a bit
Yeah, but
crazy,
that's
but
that's my point.
yeah,
That's my point, is that she is a serious villain. She's not like, she never really has an episode where she's a joke, and that's not always a bad thing. It's good that she balances out a lot of the other villains that are a lot goofier, like Fuzzy and the Amoeba Boys and stuff.
yeah. Well, you're right, but I also think there's no real villain in this that's completely 100% serious. So she's a little bit. I think it's not because they didn't they intended her not to be funny. It's just like she doesn't. She's mostly doing her stick right now. She's not really. They didn't really get to play with her as much as like Mojo because she's not in the show as much. But I do like her. Like I like her appearances. I like her design.
Yeah, her design's amazing. The concept is amazing. I mean, the fact that she's
The
literally
fact that they got this on air.
Medusa, but yeah, I mean, she's based on Medusa, the Greek uh, creature that could basically turn people to stone when they stared into her eyes. And she has snakes for hair, and basically that's the inspiration for the hair design here.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
One of the outline writers for the show, Jason Jason Butler wrote. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. He did say that he came up with Sedusa from to his knowledge. I trust that he created Sedusa. Good character. I also heard
Yeah,
on
I
this
don't
series they were having
know
like
that.
the crew had like it was fun because they had like naming sessions for like the villains and they were just trying to become like they were just trying to come up with like fun puns or like funny wordplay. Like they were taking a book out of like Jay Ward series like Super Chicken.
Yeah, well, this team's ability to come up with creative titles is like next level, because I've never seen another cartoon that has as creative and clever title names as this show. I mean, like, for instance, last time we had Insect Inside, which is kind of a play on insecticide. It's not alliteration, but there's another word for it. Is it
Brilliance.
assonance? It might be assonance. Brilliance, yes. But then like we got Monkey See Doggy Do, which is a play on Monkey See Monkey Do, and Mommy Fearest based on Mommy Dearest. Like, and these aren't even like the best titles. I mean, these are just clever puns, but there's so few in this entire first season. There's 3 titles that I think don't really meet that mark. One of them is Powerpuff Bluff, because that one is just relying on the rhyming of Puff and Bluff, but it's
It's
like,
fun to say
you could
though.
argue maybe it is. I'm just saying it's not like there's not like clever wordplay there other than like the rhyme. You could maybe like twist it to be like, well, it's based on like Blind Man's Bluff, but like, I mean, the syllables are there, but like, I don't really know about that one. But you could argue that like, well, the meaning behind that saying is like the people are blind to the crooks being the girls. So like there might be something there, but regardless, the point being is that I love the creativity behind all of the titles in this show, and I'm going to continue to talk about it because I just think it's one of the lesser praised aspects of it. I really do think the titles in this show are one
Well,
of a
I
kind.
also praise the show.
Well, there you go. Okay, another thing I love is like the final action scene. So when the girls like finally beat up Sedusa, it's satisfactory because of how much like shit she gave them the whole episode. But what I love, my absolute favorite shot in the entire episode, is when the professor opens the door and sees the girls fighting Sedusa, and he's like, "What is going on?" And he drops the groceries, and it
I
cuts
love
to the
that.
girls like beating up Sedusa, and Bubbles is just gnawing on her
That's
calf
why like she's still
for
like a
no
5-year-old. Yeah.
reason. Yeah, because like Blossom's like gonna Buttercup's like gonna punch her, and Blossom's like holding her by like the shirt or whatever,
Yeah.
and Bubbles is just like got both her hands around her leg, and she's just gnawing away at it. Like, it's just like, what is she doing?
I think she
It's
bites
just
people a
little.
few
It's just
times in the show.
no, she does, but I'm just saying it's like when you see her pause like mid bite, it's just like she looks so goofy.
I love
It's
it.
just
Yeah,
funny.
she's been the human teeth. I love it. Also, yes, Buttercup is holding her shirt, people, because I've seen threads about that. That's just she's holding her shirt. Thank you.
Yeah, it's not a hard concept to
And
understand.
that's a pretty cool action scene.
It is. It's short and quick, but
I
it's
like Buttercup,
really cool.
I'm not Buttercup, Bubbles stomping on her foot and then uppercutting her.
Oh
It's a
yeah,
fun
hundred
shot,
percent.
yeah. And the professor, the professor gets lost in the sauce a bit. But he believes his
Just a little
girls.
bit. Yep. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like he's blinded by the excitement of a
And
new
he's
relationship
very in
there for a
love.
little bit. But
Like I love him like awkwardly like going like, "Oh, sure. Okay." Like, he
yeah,
just follows.
your
I'm
wish is
trying not
my
to use the word
command,
simp, but I already used
uh,
it.
uh. Yeah, a little bit. A little
But
bit.
he's not that bad. Also, I'm very angry at Seducer for taking Octi away from Bubbles.
Yeah, that
But
was
that's a
mean.
Seducer's a
That was like
hater. Like
cruel and unusual. Yeah, I mean, Sedusa literally broke the Eighth Amendment, so
she like she's a I understand she's a villain, but like there's a lot of unnecessary like she's a hater. One of my favorite scenes is like they like she wants them to clean the house and she just starts breaking stuff. She's so
yeah.
angry. Like you're a
And this,
crazy
and this, and this.
crazy person.
From now on, you're forbidden to use your superpowers. You are going to clean this room like normal little girl.
Yeah, that's like
And so the Powerpuff
you
Girls
see, you're
clean the
just as
room
good as
like
Jennifer
normal
Hill doing
kids.
that.
Boring. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I was her stand-in
You were,
actually.
yeah.
So yeah, when Jennifer Hill was sick, I stepped
You
in.
stepped in,
I
yeah.
took over, and
You're a great voice
yeah,
actor.
I was actually in the episode Super Friends as Princess, and that's why I hate that episode so much.
Oh, she was a hard person to work with, can I imagine?
Super Friend, Robin Snyder, yeah.
Oh, Ramen. Oh, you know what? That's funny. Professor Utonium is pretty sweet to work with, I heard, but Robin Snyder, an asshole.
Robin Snyder, ugh, yeah,
That's why she's only
intolerable.
in one episode. She's supposed to be in more, but she was such a dick to the people behind the
They
scenes.
couldn't bring her back because it was just too much of a
She's a
pain on
terrible.
set. You know,
She's a terrible person. I'm just gonna be real with you. She's a terrible person, and I hate her.
I'm glad someone
I think
finally.
she's blacklisted. Like to tell you the truth, she's black. Okay, I really want to continue this bit. I really do. I have to stop myself.
It was a pretty good bit, but yeah, I think now's the time to call it quits.
Oh,
So,
there's a special joke on this in this episode.
yeah, you wanna share it? You wanna share the
Buttercup
joke?
sticks something in the professor's pocket, or
And some of
and some of
these,
these, which I
I
wouldn't know that
think
was an adult
it's
joke unless it was pointed out.
look. That's what I'm saying. I think that joke is so overblown. Like people are like, "Oh my gosh, how'd they get away with this?" I'm like, "Look, this show got away with so much worse. That is nothing."
Some of the violence is worse than the innuendo, right?
Yeah, the violence and the other innuendo jokes like that I don't know.
It's
That joke
funny though.
doesn't
It's funny
impress me.
though.
It's funny. It is funny. It's clever and it's short, and no one would pick up on it. No kid would pick up on it without it being pointed out.
And
But
it does bring some questions like how does Buttercup know that? But Buttercup has seen a lot. She's seen a lot of gore and violence.
don't
Who knows what Buttercup's
you're
seen?
not meant to think about it.
This
It's a
show is
joke.
literature, so I'm gonna take everything seriously. Thank you.
Well,
You see,
we lost another one.
you morons in the audience, you think this is a comedy, but I'm a little smarter. I'm not gonna do this, but I do love that Buttercup that Bubbles wants to put Professor's bow tie on his head. It's adorable, and Professor lets it happen. I love the Professor.
Yeah, I mean, literally
Also,
falls for every woman he sees. Apparently,
literally,
because
I
as
love
soon as
when
that one at the end,
I love when the girls are grounded and there's like a dramatic shot of the Professor holding Sedusa. I think that's very funny.
yes,
It's
as the
so
girls like
it's
go
so
up to their
it's so
bedroom.
over
Oh
dramatic.
my
I love
god,
it.
I know, same, literally same. That one's amazing.
And it's so cute. The mayor calling him. Mayor calling him. Boss was like, "Sorry, mayor, we're grounded."
Yeah. Ah, my life is a lie.
Oh, the mayor has a lot of dark secrets, as we find out over the course of the
yeah,
series.
for real.
There's a doc episode named called Documentary Later, and some guys trying to shoot City Hall, and the mayor just panics. He's just like I didn't do it. Like you didn't see anything. I was young and I needed the money. So who knows what the mayor was doing in his time in office? Seducer just steals from him. He's like, "Hey, put that back." Oh gosh. So this is a fun episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I greatly
But
enjoyed it.
unfortunately, the professor is about to fall is about to fall in love all over again. That's funny. The first time I watched this, I always assumed that the girls were just like about to beat this lady up.
Yeah, right? I mean, what does the narrator mean when he says nip this one in the
That's
butt?
I think
Like,
that's
yeah, he's
also it. I think I
referencing
also confused
Cupid,
that. I
but
thought you said
like,
like just kick this one in the butt. I thought that I thought that's what his
no,
sign was for a long time.
it's saying
Yeah, nip it in.
he's saying nip this one in the
Yeah,
butt,
but I assumed
but
that,
it's
so I was
like,
just like, oh, so they just beat her up at the end of this.
yeah, right? That's what
Maybe I think they
well,
should
like
have.
it's referencing Cupid. It's referencing Cupid, but like, what does he
Yeah, don't
mean?
eat that pie, Professor.
Yeah, oh God, you
And also,
definitely
you know
don't.
what? Townsville is lame. I don't understand. Why is Professor single? Huh. I think that's all I have to say about this episode, though.
Yeah, I don't know that I have much more to add either, to be honest. So okay, yeah. Overall, yeah, I like Mommy Fearest. It's not my favorite episode of the season by a landslide, but you know, it's pretty good. I like Seduce as a villain, and I'm glad this kind of set her up for the next episode that she'll appear in.
Yeah, like overall, I think the first half hour was stronger than the one that aired second, and I think that probably should have been aired first. But you can't do too bad with this one either.
All right. So, yeah, overall, I would probably say I like Monkey See Doggy Do more than Mommy Fearest, just by a little bit, though. But, yeah, both are fine. And it's, again, noteworthy, these episodes, because these were the first to ever air, the first that people would have ever seen live on Cartoon Network
Yeah.
upon the show's initial airing on November 18th,
Oh, and people have
1998.
recorded this premiere.
Yep.
It's online
Yeah.
if you want to see it.
Yeah, so that's cool to check out if you want to see like the promotional stuff and everything from that day. Crazy that it's been over 25 years at this point since then, but
Yeah, you're old. Everybody watching this.
yeah, okay, awesome. Well, that kind of wraps up our thoughts on that one. So hope you guys enjoyed our conversation. As has been said before, you can find me on YouTube at Shadow Streak. I also do have social media on Twitter and Discord. RJ can be found at
No Context PPG and Art of Powerpuff.
both on Twitter,
Both on Twitter.
or the site formerly known as Twitter.
It's Twitter.
Whatever that site may end up becoming. But yeah, so you can find us both there. Let us know what you thought. Let us know your thoughts on the episode somehow. I don't know where, but we're still figuring some stuff out. RJ and I have talked before about maybe like coming up with some kind of like Q&A aspect of the show at the end, or some other sort of like viewer interaction type stuff we could do after we kind of finish our episode discussions, but we're still working out the kinks on that, so hopefully we'll have something in the next couple episodes for you guys. But yeah, do you have anything else you want to add at the end of this episode,
no,
RJ? Or
thanks for listening. Thanks for sitting through this.
Yeah, thanks guys so much. We appreciate your continued support and look forward to the next episode.
Happy 25th.
Uh-oh, here we go again. Better nip this one in the bud, girls. And so once again, the day is saved. Thanks to the Powerpuff Girls.